So this is a second chance for us to talk about mission, vision, and values. Correct, Keisha? And so this is where I want y'all to begin to frame this and think through this. I want y'all to look at the mission, vision, and value as a huge football field. And the foundation, on the grass where the players play, that's the mission. And then the vision is actually how we score. And then I want you to see the values is what is the stadium that surrounds it. In that space, you come up with schemes and plans and ideas so that you just don't say, well, I'm in the impact movement, and then we just do any and everything we want to do. What we want to do is to say, what we do is to reflect the mission, the vision, and the values. So whatever our plans, our ideas, and our thoughts about our campus comes up this way. So I'm going to start talking to you a little about, I want to start a little bit with the maturing idea of what the maturing track is. But I don't want to just spend up here talking to y'all and then get dry mouth because I ran out of water. I got a little bit left. It'll be great if we have interaction so they can turn themselves off mute to ask me questions, can't they? Excellent. So if this is going to be recorded for other people to use later on, we need interaction so that they just don't hear me. So why don't y'all pose some questions about what the maturing track is, and then I'm going to lead us down the road to look at the mission and the vision and the values. Did I say that in English? Did they understand the question? Okay, these are college students, right? Right. I mean, I know these people from Madison may have trouble translating, but the other people should be able to get this stuff, right?
Oh, no, we don't have no Marquette people on this call, so we should be good.
That's so wrong. That's so wrong. Okay, so do y'all know the difference between maturing, establishing, and launching? No, no, y'all got to talk to me. I got to hear it. Huh?
How you doing, Jimmy?
What's that, Alvin? You know, dude, you got to get some light up in there, Chief.
Hey, every light is on.
You living in the shadows, bro.
The windows open, everything's open. Still
really? Well, you need to move them shades, man. The scripture says we live in the light and not in the darkness.
Amen.
You know what I'm saying?
Amen.
All right, so let me just give you an idea of why you're in this track, and then you can pose some questions before we move on. You're in this track because the way that we've divided these tracks is that, quite frankly, launching and establishing are moving towards to be maturing. Are y'all tracking with me? So you guys are at the end of the food chain right now in the way our structure is. So a launching chapter is someone that is 2 or 3 people who are gathering together and they want to start a chapter on campus. They want to get their constitution already accepted by the university and be a registered campus group. The second group, establishing, they already got that done. They may even have like 5 to 10 students that are meeting, and they're working now on creating their identity on campus. And I'm gonna tell you the difference between establishing and maturing is a little bit of a fuzzy line. The idea of maturing is this. Anything that goes down on campus, like anything Black, we want impact movement to come up in the conversation. Are y'all tracking with me? So let's see, Ms. Williams, you're at Ball State, right? Remember the Black student that got the cops called on him because he was sitting in the back of the room?
Yeah.
We want the impact movement to be a part of that conversation.
Mm-hmm.
We don't, when we mean that, we mean 2 things. We want them to be aware of what's happening. And when conversations are happening with the president and other departments or galvanizing students, we want the impact movement to be a part of that. Doesn't mean that we're the only ones. It could be the Black Student Alliance that Jalen was a part of. It could be maybe some of the Greek societies, they may be a part of it, but it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, in the maturing chapter, that means in the campus spaces, they know that the impact movement is there. And they also know that we're a Christian organization that's concerned about the well-being of the campus. Are y'all tracking with me? Now, the mission statement, which I'm going to share, or if I can do this right. I did it once. Let's see if I can do it again. I'm not going to do what I did before. I don't have a PowerPoint, but I do have a shared screen. Y'all see that? Ha ha. I'm getting good at this, boy. I tell you, I'm going to get a degree in Zoom one day in my life. So this is our case statement. And you see the impact movement equips Black students to become disciples of Jesus Christ who integrate their faith into every aspect of life. This mission statement, first of all, if we talk the impact chapter on a maturing chapter, that means that we're not only concerned about our Black students coming to our large group, our Black students going to small groups, we're also concerned about the well-being of Black students. We want to know what's happening in the life of Black students in every aspect of their life, not because we're legalistic to make sure they are living a certain kind of way, though we desire that. It's the idea that we want them to know that we care about every aspect of their life. If your mom and dad just divorced, we want to know about it. And we want to care for you through this process. If people are struggling in their academic life, we want to know about this. If people are struggling with their roommates, we want to be aware of this. We want to advocate on your behalf on campus. Are y'all tracking with me? So the maturing chapter knows that this mission statement says that Jesus is concerned about every aspect of the campus and every aspect of a student's life. And that's what we want to be a part of LSU, of Madison, of Ball State University, who also Kent State. Are these the only schools? And I said, can y'all sound off and let me know the schools? Give me some schools. So if I haven't said, if you're in Madison, just raise your hand. Are you Madison? All right. Ball State? Ball State? All right. Kent State? All right. Let's see. I'm going back and forth. Who else am I missing? Ebony?
Ball State.
All right. Anastasia?
Yes.
Which school?
Louisiana State University.
LSU. Okay. Kayla? LSU? Oh, she can't say nothing. You can do this. Is it LSU? Somebody help me. If y'all from her school, talk to me.
Ball State.
Ball State. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Kyle? I see it. ISU?
Yep. ISU, Illinois State.
Okay, cool. All right, so have you counted the schools? Caitlin? Oh, that's Madison.
Yep, UW.
UW Madison. Okay. Alvin?
Ball State.
Ball State. Okay, so let me get this, Keisha. We got Ball State, Illinois State, LSU, Madison. I thought I heard 5 schools. Who am I missing?
Kent.
CJ, what school are you?
Illinois State.
Oh, you're at Illinois State. So I said Illinois State, Ball State, Kent State, LSU. I feel like somebody else is missing. Madison.
The best one.
Madison. That's it. 5. Those are our 5 schools. Okay. So are y'all tracking with me about the mission? Here's the thing about that I want to reach into, and that is the vision. Every student involved in Impact is challenged to enthusiastically embrace and to critically understand their ethnic identity as integral to the ministry of the gospel on campus, in the community, and throughout the world. Later on, we're going to introduce these 3 Ps. But, you know, when I showed up 5 years ago, it was right when everybody was getting killed, almost like deja vu today. Eric Gardner, Walter Scott, you name Sandra Bland, a lot of people just being killed in the public square. I'm trying to think, Philando Castile, out in Sterling. We got the Emmanuel 9. And it appears what we have here, and I'm going to use Ball State as a story, is that people got this impression that we can be black and we be Christian and we can become and be Christian, but these things are separate entities. They're not connected at all. That being black and being Christian are not the same. And that's a problem for us as an organization. Because one, we were designed to serve black students across the country. And two, what we want to do is close that gap. Now, every one of you guys on this call are part of a PWI, a primary white institution. And I would dare say, I think I've seen white people at Kent State. Have I seen white people at Ball State? Have I seen white people at Ball State? I think so.
Yeah, probably.
All right. I mean, I'm talking about it as a part of the chapter. Is that true?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And I know I've seen it at Kent State. At Illinois State, do y'all have people who are white that are part of your chapter there?
As a leader, in a sense, yeah. He's a part of crew as well. So
Okay, cool. So, and see, I know at Kent State, they even had Asian students as a part of their group. So the reason, if you look at our vision statement, where we say enthusiastically embrace and critically understand their ethnic identity, we don't say black, because at a PWI, we may get any kind of student in those spaces because they may be attracted to the culture we represent that's different from Crew or IV or any of the other Christian groups. They may be attracted to us because we're not just a group that's concerned about our idea of being spiritual is not limited. It's more, has more breadth to it. So they may say, well, what's the difference between Impact and the Black Student Association on campus? Well, the only difference is that we really talk about Jesus, but we also express the idea that Jesus is concerned about the lives of Black people and the well-being on the campus. And so that's the important space, that what we're not an exclusive group, we're an inclusive group with a specific cultural expression. And that's the way I like to articulate it. I went to PWIs, and I can tell you, I was the president of the gospel choir. I was the head of the student church. These were the Black and Latino spaces. And it wasn't until 2 or 3 years after I left school that they made the gospel choir, which I was formerly the president, where any student can get an elective credit. And so you begin to see white students become a part of that experience. We're okay with that, as long as they understand that it's not diluting our mission or our vision. That's the kind of space that we're trying to create. Are y'all tracking with me? Yes? No? Y'all can give me hands, give me something. Yes? All right, thank you. I got a black hand. I don't know how y'all did that one, but I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, cool. So when we talk about this in terms of what you're trying to do on campus, this is exactly what we're trying to reach out and discuss. Like, yeah, at Ball State, let me give you a good example. And this is one of the experiences I had early on, and it was with that campus. Ball State was, I think at that, let's see, I'm trying to think, who's the Ball State people here? Is that you, Kayla? Kayla, you Ball State?
I am, sorry.
All right, so
No,
are you a junior or senior, Kayla?
I'm going to be a senior this year.
So you were around 2 or 3 years ago when there wasn't that many people in the chapter, is that correct?
Yeah, my freshman year, I believe it was really small, and that was during that year that they got fairly bigger.
Exactly. So your freshman year, around that time, it was around 15 to 16 students involved. And
Yeah.
at that time, your president hit me up and said, hey, listen, this is right when Colin Kaepernick was employed. And they made a decision that they were concerned about the deaths of Black people in the public square. And what he wanted to do was to say, is it okay for the Impact chapter to take a knee at a Ball State home game? Which they did. And if you remember, Kayla, it got some news. It got into the school newspaper. The school newspaper wrote it up and said a bunch of Black students took a knee at the home game, and they're associated with this group called Impact. here's the interesting thing that happened out of this. One, the crew students didn't like it, so they had a meeting with the impact students to discuss why were they doing such a thing. The second thing what it did, and this is exactly who we want to do with our vision, the rest of the Black students understood that Jesus cared not only about their soul, but their Black body that held their soul in it. And that's when their numbers began to shift, because they began to express these ideas. And so recently, as of February, they had a whole weekend on racial trauma, and they had Mrs. Jennifer Pinckney and Margaret Weaver there. I know one night when we showed the movie, we had 200 people watching the film. And so that's the kind of expression when we look at mission and vision, that yes, it expressed the idea that we want to integrate our faith into every aspect of our life as members, but we also enthusiastically want to critically understand our ethnic identity and the way that we can express this to the university campus. That's where we think about the creativity that we're trying to do on the campus. Are we trying to grow and reach more Black students? The answer is yes, because we're unapologetically Black, but at the same time, we're unashamedly Christian. And we want to say that these realities are not opposed to each other. That's the part of what we're trying to do with our mission and vision. Any questions? I'm gonna get out of this for a second so I can see everybody. Any questions? Is this making sense? All right. What are your thoughts about these things? Just talk to humor my brother for a second. Nobody's.
Can I say something?
You can, Keisha.
You know, I wanna challenge you all, and this is one thing that I'm hoping to challenge all of my students this year in Wisconsin, is that I actually want us to be the leaders in having conversations about the issues that are on campus and across the world, in the country mainly, because I don't know, I just feel like we need to be first. Because God, you know, I feel like we have more of a call to fight for justice than anybody else, because of the God that we follow. And so I think it's important to think through, what does it look like for us as a movement to be the first, to talk about the issues, to call out what's happening that's wrong. What does it look like for us to be the first to bring together the Black organizations on campus and say we need to do something about what's happening. And one of the things that I'm really proud of with Madison this past fall with the issue, and I don't know if other people heard about it, but the homecoming committee released a video talking about all of diversity and all of the uniqueness of the university, and didn't have one student of color in their video. Everyone in the video was completely white. And then to make it worse, there were Black students that were a part of the recording, but were edited out of the homecoming video. So, but like the people that called for that video to be taken down was impact students. They were the ones that were emailing administration. I got an email and text message at 2:00 in the morning from students saying, this is wrong, this should not be happening. So I honestly feel like, as impact students, people that love Jesus and understand the idea that that God created us all in his image, and that the moment where we're treated as if we're not created in his image, that's where the need of justice enters in, that we need to be the first ones to respond, and we need to be the ones that are leading the conversations. Yeah.
And see, and so the imagination here is twofold. And I want y'all to hear this. We're not compromising at all what it means to know Jesus. We're not compromising the idea that we want people who don't know Jesus to know Jesus. But what we're trying to help them to see is the imagination of what it means to know Jesus in their bodies, in this world right now. I mean, that's a very important piece. I don't know if y'all, I'm gonna bring this up, could be a little controversial, but how many of you saw the Franklin Graham commercial about Black Lives Matter? Anybody saw that? Nobody saw that? So this is what the dude says. He says, Black lives do matter. One statement. However, God is concerned about sin. So God so loved the world that he sent his son in this world to die. Spot on, that's John 3:16. And I hope you will engage in meeting this Jesus that God has sent into the world. That's fully appropriate. However, he's not helping them pivot to say, once I met Jesus, what does that mean by my life shifting? Because many of the people who say they know Jesus are also actually involved with anti-Black violence. If y'all remember the Ahmaud Arbery incident, if you may or may not know this, right after first the father and son, the McMichael sons were captured, and then they waited almost 2 weeks to get the dude who had literally took the video. Do you not know that on Facebook, they had a group called Christians for the McMichaels? It grew to almost 4,000 people who said they were Christians in support of the McMichaels who shot and killed Ahmaud Arbery. What I'm expecting for you guys is an expression of faith, both of depth and commitment, that would show that that's an incorrect representation of Jesus, but also it would speak to our community, Black Hebrews, anybody else who are questioning the idea of the Jesus that we serve, to show that this Jesus is not the same Jesus that they're talking about. And there's not only a right way of living, there's a concern about injustice, either on the campus, because when Alton Sturton died, that was in LSU. That was in your back, Adriana, that was in your backyard. That was 2 years ago. You were a sophomore, right? So a lot of this violence is really in proximity to where you are. Ahmaud Arbery was only, let's see, not even him, Roderick, I think his name, Taylor, the guy who was just killed by the cops in Atlanta, that's 3 miles from my house. And a week after that, they burned down the public safety building down here, and they threw a Molotov cocktail over here. So, and I was hearing helicopters for every day. So my concern is for the impact students is that if we don't get you to be engaged right now at your age as students, we have a hypothesis that you're going to be passive in your life once you graduate from college. That you'll just go off and you won't be engaged in this at all. I mean, I got white people because my neighborhood's gentrified. I'm walking around, I see all these white people got Black Lives Matter posters all on their front yard. Now, they don't even know how to say hello to me, but they got Black Lives Matter posters all in their front yard. Of course, my wife put up one that says, my Black son matters. But the reality is, this is where the mission and vision comes to life. It comes to life in this expression of vision. And so I'm robbing what Keisha said. Keisha is the one who said in our earlier conversations about this track was, what should happen, no doubt, is that anything goes down on the campus, the impact movement should be invited into this conversation, especially if it's Black, but anything that happens to threaten the well-being of a campus, the impact movement should be engaged and a part of that discussion. Are y'all tracking with me? Yes? All right, cool. All right, let me move on a little bit more. Let's see. I'm gonna get a little bit, I'm gonna try to put this on. Hold on a second.
Okay, I have a question.
Go ahead.
So you said you want impact to be in the discussion when it comes to things concerning Black. So, for example, how would the impact movement address the ICE ruling, where international students would have to leave the country? And as an international student and being Black, I felt really attacked by this, and I didn't know how. I was just thinking right now, how will the impact movement, address this and
Exactly.
speak on
So
this?
here's the deal. So it wouldn't just simply be Black, it would be international. I said threaten the well-being of anybody on campus. So it starts with Black, but not only Black. So let's say with the ICE students, the good thing is I hear a lot of people are fighting against the what do you call it? It was an executive order from the president. It wasn't legal, but he wrote it and said that if schools go back to a virtual space, then all of these students are going to be sent back home to go to school internationally. I think this is the time when the impact movement steps up. We befriend ICE. We befriend and we step up and say how we can be supportive. Let me give you another example. When Asian students were getting beat down over the China virus, I expected Black students to step up. If I'm right, the best dressed student at the last Impact Conference was an Asian student, a Filipino from Kent State. Cat was about 5'5" with a long, I mean, he dressed to the nine.
Oh, John.
Oh, see, there you go. There's his name. See, so to me, when something threatens the life of an Asian student, especially if they're part of Impact, but even if they aren't, that means it threatens the impact, the well-being of our students as well. So that's how we engage, and we have to think through creatively, what does that mean? What, for your case, where are you from, Torto?
School or?
Country?
Ghana.
Oh, you from Ghana?
Yeah.
Madasi. All right. What, are you from Accra?
Yeah, originally, yeah.
All right. So I got a good friend in Accra. We're going to do a Facebook Live with him soon to talk about COVID-19 in Ghana. But that's neither here nor there. I digress. But so the idea then at this point is, how do we engage the Director of International Relations on the Kent State's campus and build coalition and be supportive of him and his desire to care for international students? Because when we do this, people really want to know Jesus then, because they can see that Jesus really does care about these issues. I think sometimes when we talk about evangelism, and I'm going to walk through this, it's almost like the only thing that we ever care about, can we have a conversation about Jesus? And then the only thing we want to measure, do they come to meet Jesus? Well, no, it's not meeting Jesus, it's living with Jesus. How do they live with Jesus for the rest of their days? How does Jesus live within them? And that's the attractive part of our evangelism is not just expressing the need to meet the Savior of the world for forgiveness of sin, for a place in heaven. It's also the idea that we get to introduce a new way of living on campus. My hope is, like one day, so I'm gonna bring up one other issue before I get to the values. There's a lot of conflation, and we're gonna deal with this in my next Facebook Live. I know some of y'all have been watching it, maybe. One, Adriana, I appreciate you. So there's a lot of conflation between the Black Lives Matter organization and the Black Lives Matter movement. Those are two separate things, right? The movement has a variety of Black people engaged in demonstrations to say that we're upset about the violence against Black people's life. The organization, though, if you're aware of it, have some things that we may not agree with biblically. So we may not sign on with the organization, but this doesn't mean we're not a part of the movement. Like, for instance, during the Civil Rights Movement, there were 6 organizations, 7, but it was almost died, that were involved in the Civil Rights Movement, at least 6 or 5. Can anybody name any of those organizations from the Civil Rights Movement? Just give me one. Give me one, somebody, please.
The SCLC?
Exactly, Ebony. SCLC, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, started by Dr. King with Black pastors. Somebody give me a second one.
NAACP.
The NAACP, exactly, out of New York. Started by W.B. Du Bois and a whole bunch of other folk. That's 2. Somebody give me a third one.
SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating.
Exactly, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. Okay, that's the third one. Somebody give me a fourth one. They're still around too. Urban League, The Urban League was a part of the civil rights movement. At that time, Whitney Young was a part of that. There's a fifth one. It's called CORE, the Congress of Racial Equality. They too are still around. So when people think about the civil rights movement, it wasn't just Dr. King, it was 5 different groups. So today, we've got a number of organizations. We got Al Sharpton's group. Anybody know the name of that group? The National Action Network. That's under Al Sharpton. We still have the NAACP. We also have the Black Matters organization over there. And there's some other organizations, the Color of Change. They've been a part of it. And then there's prominent people who we know them as individuals, but they may do other things like Shaun King. Have y'all heard of Shaun King? Shaun King graduated from Morehouse, used to be a pastor in Atlanta before he moved to New York City, and he works for the New York, I think the Beast or the Post. My hope one day, if we position ourselves well, that the impact movement would be seen as a participant of this, not compromising not one thing of our values, nothing about holiness, nothing about prayer, nothing about evangelism or discipleship or missions, but that people would know that we're in this fight too. And so we bring salt and light and God's presence through us participating in this. That's what Keisha is trying to give you the imagination for. You could do this as students now, but the idea, let me just tell y'all this, I'm not in this just to do it for students. I'm in this because hopefully y'all gonna graduate. And the idea is that once you graduate, this type of commitment would be transferred to you on. So I'm gonna give you an example. 2 weeks ago, I was taking my son who graduated from ZU. He lives in Chicago, my home city, the city I love. He lives in downtown Chicago and he works for the Tribune Corporation. While we were driving through Chattanooga, I got a phone call from one of my former students who graduated from the University of Miami. She went to law school. She's a judge. She won Judge of the Year. She was calling me back. And my wife is paying attention to the whole conversation. So she's now engaged in conversations on issues of justice and righteousness with the Miami Bar Association, and also is meeting with a couple of Supreme Courts for the state of Florida. And so she wanted to know, Jimmy, how should I couch the conversation? What books would you recommend that we need to engage and read about? I have this book. What's another book you read? So I gave her 4 or 5 recommendations. And then I told her to couch the conversation. She says, it seems like what's happening in the world today, we're leveraging this into the Miami Bar Association that eventually as a judge, she can bring in, hopefully into the courtrooms. See, she's exactly what I'm hoping is going to happen to each and one of you. When you leave whatever institution with a degree and hopefully gainfully employed, the impact movement should inform and spark and convict you of how responsible you're going to be in your career move. That's what the maturing organization is doing. You're already beginning to think through this, to pivot your alumni through this. So when they graduate from school, you're figuring out a way how to network them and to build this momentum. My job is to build more breadth of content and more resources to you so that upon graduation, you can come back to us and find that we can inform you in whatever profession you have. In the meanwhile, while you're a college student on campus for 3, 4, 5, maybe 6 years, it depends. Like if you're at Madison, it might be what, 5, 6 years, right, Keisha, something like that. But I'm just teasing. The idea is that impact is on that campus, exactly what she said, to build an impression of what it means for people to know God and know that God is concerned about their whole existence as human beings on the earth. That's why the mission and vision means a lot to me. I was biased because I wanted it to begin to express that. Are you tracking with me, Frederick? So that means you go to the ICE or the International Relations on campus when this stuff is going down and say, how can we be supportive of this? You go to the with the Pacific Islander or Asian community on campus, because they're getting words like, you should go back to your country. Why did you give us this disease? You don't belong here anyway. And if there's any violence, we go over there. It's not just Black, we go over there and say, we're going to stand with you, because we're not going to put up with anti-Asian violence, because a threat to anti-Asian violence is also a threat to Black bodies. So we stand on that regard. Are you tracking with me? Is this making sense? Y'all with me? Cool. So now let me move on a little bit further. How I'm doing with time, Keisha? I need some help. Oh, we only got half hour. I'm gonna run through these values just a little bit. Let me go back to share, because I got another meeting. I'm going right in after this. Let's see if I can do this. I did it again. Look at there. Now, I'm gonna focus on only a few of the values here. And it doesn't mean that I love all 10 of them. And let me just tell you the reason why they're formed this way, and they're not just like a pillar or just one straight line. The reason why they're like this is because if you, I don't have my ring, I haven't been wearing my wedding ring recently, but if you can imagine in your mind, if you have a ring, can you tell me where the beginning and the end of a ring is when you have it in your hand? You can't, because it's all connected. You never know where the beginning and the end. So the idea of these values is that this is supposed to be a ring. So if you grab hold of evangelism, then you're concerned about justice. If you're concerned about discipleship, then you're concerned about community. If you're concerned about biblical IQ, then you're concerned about missions and holiness. The whole idea is that even though we have a definition for each value, they all are attached to each other. So you can't say I'm fulfilling discipleship without also fulfilling other characteristics or values of the organization. The idea that it's whole, that it comes together. That's what I want y'all to see. And so the idea of an impact movement is to begin to see this integration in our lives as students. You're beginning to practice in this. So let me give you an example. When I first started playing basketball, the only thing I was good at was playing defense. I couldn't dribble, I couldn't shoot, and my left hand was useless. I didn't know what to do with the ball. And so what I wanted to do so that I could play, I had to learn how to do everything it requires of me to be a basketball player. I had to learn to dribble with both hands. I had to learn to pass the ball in case I was trapped, that I can get it to my teammate who is free. I had to learn how to rebound the ball, because if someone shoots the ball, I go underneath the basket, I can grab the rebound and maybe retain it for my team. I had to learn how to defend, so that if we wanted to win, it wasn't just scoring, it was all those things. So that, and then most of all, while I learned all these various traits of how to dribble, how to pass, how to shoot, how to defend, how to rebound, how to steal, I did all those things for only one reason. Because if I didn't have all these traits, they wouldn't let me play. And I didn't like sitting on the outside. So I worked hard in building all these skills so that I could play. And so when on Friday afternoons at Marquette University at the gym, and it was like players from all over the city would come to play from 3 to 7 o'clock on Friday evenings. When I showed up, I wanted to be picked, because I was trying to display all of the attributes of a basketball player so they can see me as a worthy player on their team. This is what we want to do with the impact movement. We want to build well-rounded Christian people. Holiness is not perfection. Holiness means that we're different. Different, you know what difference really means? Let me get out of this. Difference means the way we are as a Christian organization, even though we target Black students, the difference means that we care not only about Black people, we care about all people. And we mean that. the idea of community, that means that we not only are building a community, we extend our arms to have anyone to join our community. It means that we not only pray about the things that are upon our hearts, we pray about the other things that are hurting other people's heart. Like right now, as much as the COVID-19 is killing Black people, do you know the second most devastating population of minorities that are being killed by COVID-19? Somebody tell me y'all know who it is. Please tell me you know. If you don't, tell me.
Native Americans.
Exactly. Exactly. It's running straight through the Native American res. And I just was so excited because one of my friends who's Native American, one of her friends from a Navajo reservation said, I'm a COVID-19 survivor and I'm alive. And I like that. That means the Impact Movement cares about Native American people. Y'all may not know this. One day I'm going to take Black people to the res. That's my dream. That was my dream when I got here. I can't wait till a bunch of us go over to the Black Hills and be with the Sioux, or we go to Arizona or in New Mexico to be with the Navajo or the Zuni, and we live with them and we talk to them and we eat their food and we build community with them. Because see, that's where we need to be. That's the idea of prayer. So when we're talking about being a well-rounded Christian, all these values is an idea for you to play in the kingdom. It gives you the idea to be called up. That's what we're talking about. Are you guys tracking with me? All right, what questions do you guys got? I'm trying to stimulate your imagination because at all of you come from very big schools. LSU is a big school. They're probably happy because it looks like they're going to have the National Football Championship for 2 years since nobody's going to play football. So they're going to brag about that for 2 years. Madison is a big campus. It's the biggest, isn't it the biggest UW school in the UW system? All right. Illinois State ain't no small school. That's a big school. Am I right? I don't think y'all bigger than University of Illinois, but I don't think there's any other school that competes with your size outside of that school. Who else am I missing? Kent State, well, you're historic, but you're a big institution. Well, you're not as big as Ohio State, but you're bigger than most schools around in the area. So that means the opportunity to express this well-rounded faith is really in front of you guys. And the goal by the end of this time is for you to have the imagination of how do we express these values and this mission on that campus, barring that if we're allowed to be on campus. Are y'all tracking with me? No questions? Am I boring y'all to death? No? I mean, this is why I took this job. I still feel excited about it too. I took this job for the same reason why I graduated from college and became a campus minister. My only vision in life, now is really trying to get the depth of what Keisha said, because Keisha pushed me about 4 weeks ago when she said anything goes down on campus, impact should be called. We should not be ignored if we're a mature campus. So that I gotta tell you that Keisha pushed me that day, I'm gonna be honest. But my dream too is that you guys gotta step up when you graduate from college. I'm hoping that you guys, we need some more businesses. Do y'all know Black businesses are dying right now? That means we're going to need more institutions. We're going to need entrepreneurs. Do you know Black kids are suffering in education right now? Because they don't have Wi-Fi or the devices. It really don't matter if you have devices if you don't have Wi-Fi. But their mom and dad don't sit down on Zoom to help them learn the lessons that they have. Did you know they're talking about defunding the cops? Well, defunding the cops don't mean there won't be any cops. They're just saying we're going to purge what we got and create something new. Well, we might need an impact student to be a cop or something in that new space. That's what I want. That's why I took this job. That's why I said every single one of y'all got to be leaders for us, because I need you. The kingdom needs you. Are y'all tracking with me? Cool. All right, Keisha, are we over at 6?
I think Adriana would know more because she's our
Oh,
ops.
all right. Our ops person, Ms. Watson, what's going down?
You're supposed to be finished by 6:05. So right now you actually coming up on like the 20-minute mark. So if you wanted to like have discussion, questions.
Yes, this is a good time for discussion and questions. Now, my only problem, Ms. Watson, I gotta tell you, I'm supposed to be training, do another training in like 10 minutes. So I can't stay to 6:05. I probably can stay another 5 or 10 minutes, but it don't matter. You and Keisha can hold it down because these people are gathering their thoughts right now. And they're right, Anastasia. Yeah, she smiles. She getting her thoughts together right now.
I would like to say something. I think I was taking this time to sit back and listen and to really think about the things that you were talking about, because I think they are very important. I think as an organization, we can't just sit back and say, oh, okay, that's an Asian issue, so that doesn't concern me, or that's a Hispanic issue, so that doesn't concern me. When, I mean, in actuality, if we're going to paint ourselves in the way that Jesus wants us to be, we can't, like what you said earlier, be passive, because it didn't matter who it was, it didn't matter their economic status, it didn't matter their race. If they were in need, Jesus was the first person to be there. And I think we should also implement that as an organization.
Exactly. You got it, sis. Right? I mean, that's the whole idea of Black Lives Matter. Black people die, nobody care about it. That means we got to care about if anybody else dies. Exactly. You got it. What campus are you in?
LSU.
Oh, okay. So you're talking that stuff Brianne is in your ear. I got you. All right. And then what's Miss Watson too? All right. Anybody else?
I just have some thoughts. When Mr. McGee, when you began the work, when we began just today, one of the points you made was leadership. You pointed out some leaders, and the thing with a lot of these leaders is that they're still human beings, and though they had flaws, though they had fears, doubts, they're still led. And I bring this up because as you were speaking, I was just asking myself, why do I see in my life personally, why do I see issues and pick and choose which ones that I act on and which ones that I'm blinded to? And I think it's definitely, it comes from a reason of doubt. It comes from a lack of confidence. It comes from believing this lie that we don't have enough resources. So I was just thinking, what are some ways that we can encourage our students and build up our students to allow us to know and remember that even though we may not have all these answers, that we should still be in movement.
Exactly. And now I saw a little bit of a light. I know exactly who you are, Alvin. We sat it and chopped it up when I was in Bald State.
Yes, sir.
Cool. All right, cool. But you're right. I mean, that's the whole the way it was intimidating. And I got to tell you, you know, I've had a natural curiosity to know people. And I never forget talking to one of my Asian friends when I first came on staff, when I was in campus ministry. And she told me she went back to tell her parents that she was going into campus ministry. And her parents told her that they didn't want her to do that. And it wasn't like what black folk did. Black folk go something, baby, I didn't send you to college for you to go ask people for money so you can go work somewhere. Her parents told her, we're going to kill ourselves if you go on staff with this campus ministry. That was an epiphany for me because they had already risked and sacrificed for her, and now I had an idea. And so what I discovered, the thing that keeps us so apart and divided is our ignorance. And ignorance is a choice. So we don't know much about Latinos because we don't want to know about Latinos. So I took Anna with me, I don't know, people from Illinois City, have y'all heard this? Anna and I went to Mexico City. And it's a training ground for I'm teaching people how to do missions and urban work. And so we walked, Mexico City makes New York look like a small town. So we went to this place that was a safeguard for refugees from El Salvador and Guatemala. We set up and ate with them and spent time with them. And it was an exceptional moment because we began to know the difference between Mexico, Guatemala, and El Salvador. But if we never put ourselves in a position to learn like Jesus did, we never will learn. And we definitely won't express the idea of Jesus' concern for people in that fashion. We're going to get together again. See you in a little bit.